Okay, so I think we can start. So welcome everyone um, to this amazing panel discussion. And my name is Din Long. I have a Vietnamese name, but I was born and raised in Paris in France. And today is not about me. Today is about all our amazing speakers and social entrepreneurs in this webinar so that we organize jointly with Youth Collab and SDSN Youth. So we'll have someone from Youth Collab, who is not me, someone from SDSN Youth, right after I speak, who will introduce a bit about what are Youth Collab and SDSN Youth. But for today, let me introduce to you to all our speakers. So we have Eleanor Horrocks, so my amazing colleague from Youth Collab. Please give a virtual round of applause, even if we cannot see you. So she will be speaking on behalf of Youth Collab. We have Regina Inestrias, so the project officer for SDSN Youth today with us. So another round of applause, please. You can keep clapping without stopping for the next 1 minute. And then let me introduce you to our 4 youth social entrepreneurs of today. So we have Shiropa Tawida, so the founder and CEO of Mona Bondu from Bangladesh. So please, round of applause again. We have Pasawat Sakulpanish, or Tae. So the co-founder and CEO of Prism from Thailand. Round of applause. We have also Pratik Kunwar, so the founder and CEO of the Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation in Nepal, and also of the program of the new project Shasan that he will speak about today. So round of applause for Pratik as well. And last but not least, we have Sagufta Janif, so the founder and CEO of the Fusion Hub in Fiji. So welcome everyone. It will be a very exciting panel discussion today. And of course, if you cannot load Mentimeter, as Marta said, you can share all the questions here on the chat. So before we officially kickstart, I wanted to remind a bit why we are here today. So we are obviously here today to hear from all the social entrepreneurs and how they rose to the challenges of COVID-19. And you will see they have amazing stories. They will share how COVID-19 impacted the social enterprise, but how they overcome the challenges, not only for their own survival, but that you will see how they are contributing to the broader COVID-19 recovery and even beyond. So we'll touch upon all of this. And we also wanted to take this opportunity to introduce you to Youth Collab and SDSN Youth. So 2 organizations that can support you as a young social entrepreneur, and also officially launch the SDSN Youth Solution Report featuring 50 amazing SDG solutions from all around the world. And for us, it was important to have this panel discussion today, 1 year after the official declaration of COVID-19, so as a pandemic. So yes, so let's get started with a few questions. We'd love to hear from the audience today. Who is in the audience? So let me share again my screen. Let me share again the Mentimeter code. So if you just arrived, you can click on the link, put the code, and you will be able to contribute to this amazing screen where we have a lot of excited people. All right, so I will move on to the next question. So it's a quick poll just to understand who is in the audience today. So do we have entrepreneurs? Do we have aspiring entrepreneurs? Do we have people who are supporting entrepreneurs? Or do we have people who are curious? We just wanted to hear from our speakers. Let's see. Okay, we have a lot of entrepreneur supporters. That's great. Okay, some aspiring entrepreneurs. So feel free to keep the answers coming, and you can, of course, share on the chat if you cannot access Mentimeter. Thank you, Linka, for all the applause. I just saw that on the chat. Cool. Okay, we have lots of curious minds, a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs, some entrepreneurs, and a lot of people supporting entrepreneurs. Cool. So I see we have way more attendees than Mentimeter responses, so feel free to share in the chat again. And yeah, we'll move to the next question, which will is really about, we want to hear from you as well. Why did you join today's session? What would you like to hear from our speakers today? Any specific things? It will help us as well tailor a bit what we are saying to whoever in this room today. So please take 1 minute to type keywords or full sentences about what you want to hear from our speakers. So insights on how you rose to the COVID-19 challenges, inspiring stories, so you're in the right place. How to raise to the challenge. Yes, so you're also in the right place. Motivation, maybe to start your business or to adapt to COVID-19 situation, inspiring stories. So we have a lot of people looking for inspiration today. How, okay, how to learn from Dinlong moderation. Okay, amazing. I hope you will learn something. Any useful resources. So yeah, you'll get to know how to be involved with Youth Collab or SDSN Youth. You will get a lot of resources from us. How about starting a business and roll around with COVID? Okay, so the main thing is inspiring stories. So you know what to do. To all our speakers today, I'm sure you'll be super inspiring. Okay, I just let it for 10 more seconds. And then I will invite our first speaker. So it will be in 2 parts. So the first part will invite Eli and Alejina to speak a bit about Youth Collab and SDSN News, and then we'll kickstart with the panel discussion. Okay, so I would like to invite our first speaker of today, Miss Eleanor Horrocks from the UNDP Bangkok Regional Hub, who will share a bit about Youth Collab, but most of all, we conducted a research and a survey last year and this year about how COVID-19 impacted young social entrepreneurs in Asia-Pacific region. And Eli will share with us the key findings, whether it's positive or negative for young social entrepreneurs. But yeah, over to you, Eli.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Dinlong, and good morning, everyone from Bangkok. I'm really delighted to be joining this panel and really excited to be speaking with you all. So first, I'd love to just introduce a little bit about Youth Collab. So Youth Collab is an initiative that is co-led by UNDP and City Foundation. And our aim is really to grow a movement and also to build the sort of supporting ecosystem to unlock the power of young people in Asia Pacific as leaders, as social innovators, and as entrepreneurs. And so we work in about 27 countries now, all the way from Pakistan in the west to Fiji in the east. And we have a range of different programs. We are supporting over 75,000 young people who want to be change makers in their communities, over 1,000 startups that are offering solutions for the SDGs, and with about 190 partners in the ecosystem. And we work with them to sort of strengthen the enabling environment for youth leadership, social innovation, and entrepreneurship. And it's really from that kind of unique vantage point that over the past year, we've been we sort of witnessed the amazing leadership and resilience of young people really on the front lines of the COVID-19 crisis. And what we've seen is that these young leaders were among the first to pivot their business models and sort of repurpose their creativity, their energy, their models, their platforms, their ingenuity to support their communities to respond. And they've really proven their resilience over the past year, not only in sort of withstanding some unprecedented threats to their own survival, but also in offering solutions and models that offer transformative potential for recovery and beyond. So as Youth Collab, we really want to empower these young people, these young change makers, some of whom you'll hear from on the discussion today, to amplify their impact. And today I'm just going to very briefly introduce you to some of the research that we've conducted over the past year and what we've learned from supporting young entrepreneurs. So we've essentially conducted 2 rounds of surveys. The first one was conducted in March last year, really as the sort of cascading effects of the crisis were playing out. Of course, Asia Pacific was the first region to be impacted, and we were seeing the impacts across all the countries, the 27 countries in which we were working. And so this was really a rapid survey. We got responses from 18 countries, from 410 young entrepreneurs, and I'll go into some of the results in a minute. And then 1 year on, sort of to kind of recognize the extraordinary year that we've all gone through, we wanted to do a follow-up. And this has been a more detailed survey, which we launched on 22nd of February. It's closing at the end of this week, so there's still a chance to respond if you haven't already. But I'll go through the initial results as of hot off the press as of yesterday. So far we've heard from over 700 young entrepreneurs from across Asia Pacific, now from 29 countries. So great to see we've got even more diversity in the sample. And it's a more, as I said, a sort of more in-depth survey looking at a lot of the impacts and effects over the past year. So really we've, our surveys over the first one and then the sort of 1 year on survey have looked at these kind of 4 different dimensions, and then obviously they're very, very interconnected. First of all, we've aimed to assess how young entrepreneurs have been impacted over the past year, what have been the different channels of impact, and what have been the sort of second order effects. So as a result of different channels of impact on their enterprises, what have they had to do in response? And then related to that, we've looked at their response strategies. So both coping strategies and then also more business pivots, adaptations, real sort of new responses. And that's shown some of both these first two lenses have helped us to see some of the vulnerabilities that youth-led enterprises have that were pre-existing before the pandemic, but then also some of the capabilities that they have that actually make them very agile and very resilient to a shock like this. So it's a sort of, there's 2 sides to the story. And then we really looked at, linked to their adaptation strategies, how they've developed solutions, both for crisis response and for recovery. And obviously this has often been a way of linked to survival in terms of pivoting to adapt their business model to challenges brought on by the pandemic. And it's given them new growth strategies. It's also catalyzed new innovations in their business model, new partnerships with others, and really kind of solutions with long-term potential for their growth. But I think more fundamentally than this, we wanted to recognize through the research how many of these young social entrepreneurs were already presenting more inclusive business models and solutions that really respond to long-term global challenges we face. So it wasn't just that they're just here to sort of provide a safety net during the crisis, but actually their models show us the way for recovery and for more resilient and sustainable societies and economies. And I think you'll hear that from the entrepreneurs today. And finally, we also wanted to understand what support they received and what further support they needed. And this has helped to guide our response as Youth Collab and our programming and service offer to the entrepreneurs that we support. And it's also helped us to do advocacy along with the UN system and with a wide range of different partners on what recovery strategies, how they need to take into account youth-led enterprises and how we can maximize the role they can play in recovery. So I'll go through very briefly. I won't go into detail because the full report is going to come out in April, and you'll be able to see both the more specific case studies and examples, as well as differences across sectors and across countries, and we'll go into all of that. But just to give a taster today, when it comes to sort of impacts, we saw both in the immediate kind of outbreak of the pandemic and then also 1 year on, the really significant challenges that youth-led enterprises in Asia Pacific have been facing. So by now, 94% of them have experienced a negative impact of the pandemic, and we've seen different channels of impact. 47% have had to close either temporarily or permanently over the past year. And there's been many different sort of second order effects in terms of having to lay off staff, reduce staff hours, postpone investments in the business, and also mental health and stress among staff as well. And we'll go into more of these in more detail. But on the flip side of this, we've also seen the extraordinary sort of resilience and agility of youth-led enterprises. And this has really been backed up also in other surveys conducted globally, that we've seen that businesses with founders kind of under the age of 35 have been more capable of leveraging online platforms and really moving rapidly to sort of adapt and to have business continuity plans quickly in the wake of the pandemic. And we've really seen this from the young entrepreneurs surveyed through the Youth Collab research, with 87% of them have pivoted their business strategy, 93% have used mobile or digital solutions as a in direct response to the pandemic, and vast majority have also seen new innovations and new partnerships as a result of the pandemic. And many of them feel that youth-led enterprises are more equipped to recover, and they explain some of the reasons why, although at the same time others felt that youth-led enterprises were less equipped and more vulnerable, and we will get into that as well in the report. Linked to their sort of agility and resilience, we've really seen how young leaders were kind of among the first responders in repurposing their business models to provide solutions, both for crisis response, things like providing PPE, using their manufacturing facilities for that, to kind of helping vulnerable groups. We know that social enterprises are more able to reach those who may otherwise be left behind. So both in crisis response, immediate kind of support to their communities, we've seen an extraordinary leadership on the part of young social entrepreneurs in Asia Pacific. But we've also seen these kind of solutions that have long-term potential. And we've seen how young social entrepreneurs are more aware of some of the global challenges we face, such as the climate emergency, such as mental health crisis, and many others. And so they're both more able to respond rapidly, but more able to offer solutions that really meet the moment and that meet the long-term crises that we face, which COVID is layering on top of. And finally, in terms of support and support needs, in the immediate aftermath of the crisis, we found that very few young entrepreneurs had received any form of financial support at all. And really they were turning to their networks and to their peers for kind of co-designing solutions, and to their customers as well. 1 year on, the picture is a bit different. It's more nuanced, and we'll have to unpack differences across countries and sectors. But overwhelmingly, young people do not feel that their government's recovery strategies are sufficient for youth-led enterprises, but they have received valuable forms of support from different partners. And we went through all the different types of partners and the kind of support provided. We also looked at what further support they need. And you can see here the types of financial support. We ranked what sorts of support would be most beneficial and what kinds of technical advice would be most beneficial as well. So we'll share all those results with you. And really, I think one of the things that we found through the research is particularly how we need to learn from these lessons in order to maximize the role of young people and young social entrepreneurs in the recovery. And when we look at the vulnerabilities and the challenges that young social entrepreneurs face, there's clearly a need for a lot more targeted support. Finally, what can we do to help you if you're a young entrepreneur who's struggling or who's thriving and wants to share their story with others? We have our Springboard program, which is a platform for young social entrepreneurs across Asia Pacific. We have a completely open online learning platform, and we also have incubation programs for young social entrepreneurs. So connect with us at Youth Collab, youthcollab.org, and we'll be really delighted to support you to get through this time and to sort of maximize the role that you can play in leading in the recovery. Really excited to hear from the young entrepreneurs today, so I won't take up any more time. I'll pass over to Dinlong and Regina.
Thank you so much, Ellie, for sharing the key findings of the survey. So yeah, as you mentioned, the survey will close this week. So if you want to take part in this research and share with us how COVID-19 impacted your social enterprise 1 year after. So yeah, please take the survey. Marta has shared the link on the chat, and you will also receive after the survey all the resources from Youth Collab, how you can take part in it. And yeah, hopefully the stories today will make the survey results come to life as well, so you can hear from our 4 speakers. And before that, I'd like to invite Regina. So she will share a bit more about SDSN and the Youth Solution Report. I was happy to be involved as one of the Youth Advisory Panel members. So being part of the selection of 50 young social entrepreneur from all across the world, and you were looking for inspiring stories. So over to you, Regina, to share 50 inspiring stories from SDS and Youth.
Hello, everyone. I'm very excited to be here with you. So I'll talk to you a little bit more about what we do at SDS and Youth. I'm the project officer for the Youth Solutions Program, which is part of SDS and Youth. So SDS and Youth is a program of the UN Sustainable Development Solutions Network, which is an initiative launched by the former UN Secretary Ban Ki-moon in 2012 in order to mobilize expertise around the sustainable development goals. So at SDS and Youth, more specifically, we focus on empowering young people globally to create sustainable solutions which help advance the SDGs through education, communities, and innovation. Within our program, we have many different flagship initiatives that cover different areas like social education for sustainable development through the global programs, through the Global Schools program. And we also have the Local Pathways program, which is a fellowship in which we support projects from young people working towards creating more resilient and sustainable cities. And lastly, we have the Youth Solutions program, where I'm currently the project officer, which we focused on social entrepreneurship. And at the Youth Solutions team, we have launched every year for the past 4 years, the Youth Solutions report. This report focuses particularly on showcasing 50 young-led projects, both from nonprofit and social business ventures, which aim to solve the world's toughest problems and to address the many challenges of sustainable development through innovative solutions. For this past report, we focused on the decade of action and the acceleration of sustainable solutions. And we genuinely believe at SDS and Youth that young people can catalyze change and that we need to harness all their potential to reach their goals and the milestones of the 2030 agenda. So young innovators are crucial to meet these goals. And the process in which we choose our innovators is that we launch the cohort for applications every year. For example, this past year, we had 1,700 applications and we review each of them, which we then send over to the advisory panel, which consists of leader and experts. One of them was being launched actually. And they finally pick the 50 solutions, which will be showcased in the report. And one of the perks of having an extensive network of partners is that we share the report with as many networks and media that we can in order to get the innovators have the opportunity to meet and draw interest from potential supporters, as well as to expand their network. And later on, we give our innovators the opportunity to join our investment readiness program, which is a 16-week acceleration program, which provides young innovators with valuable insights from leading experts in the field. We also provide personalized one-on-one mentoring and the opportunity to connect with other innovators and leaders so they can tailor their projects in order to meet impact investors. And today, to offer 2 guest speakers, we're actually part of the 4th edition of the Youth Solutions report. We will introduce them shortly, so I don't take any more of your time, so we can move on and listen to these amazing stories of resilience and innovation.
Thank you, Regina. Yeah, so for everyone in the audience, don't forget to apply to the Youth Solution Report for next year to be showcased among the top 50 SDG solutions. So yeah, I think that's the moment that you were all waiting for, to hear from our 4 young social entrepreneurs. Some were featured in the Youth Solution Report, some are being supported by the Youth Collab program, some are both at the same time. So without further ado, let's hear from them. And before that, maybe we can all start, we can start with a round of introduction from everyone. And I need the participation of the audience. Can you share the name of one speaker that you would like to hear from the first? So we'll just ask them to all go through some round of introduction. But yes, for the audience, can you type in the name on the chat of the first speaker that you want to hear from? Let's see if we can see some answers. And then basically, okay, so let's hear from Sagufta. So Sagufta will give you the floor first. So feel free to introduce who you are, what is the problem that you're addressing with the Fusion Hub, and what is the Fusion Hub all about. And when you are done, feel free to pass it to another speaker until we, until all the speakers speak, and then you can give it back to me. So yeah, over to you, Sagufta.
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Shagufta and I'm from Fiji. I hope you all can hear me clearly. So my social enterprise is the Fusion Hub, and we started off as a social enterprise supporting women in different communities where they are not able to access opportunities to raise income or to earn an income. So, and the other solution that we are trying to provide is our waste problem, because growing up in Fiji, basically the beach is our life, it's our home. And then seeing so much of pollution wash up on our shores has been disheartening. So I decided to um, create a solution whereby we upcycle waste into sustainable furniture and home decor pieces. And these furniture pieces and home decor pieces are made by the women that we train back in their communities. So we take them through a 2 week waste towards capacity building program and provide them with the right resources and the skills. And then they make these products for us and we become their market access. So that is essentially what we are trying to do here in Fiji. That's our work so far. Thank you very much. I would like to pass it on to Pasawat.
Hi everyone. So just to introduce myself, my name is Tay. I'm from Bangkok, Thailand, and I'm 19 years old right now. So I'm a freshman at university in the US. So just to introduce our initiative is called Prism Chat. So it is an online anonymous communication platform for the LGBTQ plus community. So we built this community to allow people to interact with each other and seek support, guidance, and advice. And this was motivated by the fact that over 80% of LGBTQ plus youth report severe social isolation and they can't access the resources they find useful. And this was before times of COVID-19. So these problems are definitely exacerbated by COVID-19. So that has led us to kind of aggressively grow Prism into like a much larger community for people to gain support. And yes, that's our social enterprise. And I'll pass it on to Shiropa.
Thank you, Pasawat. I'm Tawhida Shiropa. I'm the founder and CEO of Moner Bondhu. So in Bangladesh, 20 million people suffers from many mental health issues, and only in Dhaka Dhaka is the capital city of Bangladesh, and Dhaka 71% people are suffers from many mental health issues, including the depression. So we started Moner Bondhu in 2016. So Monirbunt is a mental health care and well-being platform, and to provide the accessible and affordable mental health services, mental health and well-being services to all socioeconomic background in Bangladesh. And we are working towards SDG 3.4, and with our 100 psychologists, psychiatrists, mental health workers, first responder, and many volunteers from around the world. We have so far reached 3 million people through our events, online platforms, and only 100,000 people only in the we have reached in the during this COVID time. And, uh, and I have to mention that during this COVID, with the support of Youth Collab and UNDP, we are the implemented partner of the UNDP's COVID-19 crisis response project, and we have served more than 18,000 people in Bangladesh, from the 52 districts in Bangladesh. And basically, Moner Bondhu provide in-person counseling, one-to-one counseling, online counseling. We developed a knowledge toolkit, soft skill development toolkit, conducted research, knowledge toolkit, and we are conducted group sessions, group training, workshops, not only in the Dhaka city and around the across in Bangladesh. And apart from this, we have a radio show, we have a television show to raise awareness about mental health issues in Bangladesh and break the stigma and barrier. Because of the stigma and barrier, so people are very reluctant, still people are very reluctant to seek the mental health support from the professionals. So this is my story. This is Monebandhu's story. So we are very looking forward to this session, and I'm very happy and very honored to all the panelists, and thank you for having me today. Thank you. I think I am over to Pratik.
Thank you so much, Tahida. That's an incredible story you have. So I am Pratik Kumar. I'm the founder of the Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation. And today I'll be talking about our flagship project called Shasan, which is a a citizen-led initiative which tackles civic disengagement in Nepal. So to give some context, Nepal is a very old country, about 250 years old. And in those 250 years, we've had only less than 12 years of democratic experience. So you can kind of guess how bad the civic landscape is in Nepal. And the problem really stems from the fact that there's a divide between citizens and their elected representatives. The citizens are politically apathetic. They may be concerned, they may not be concerned about what's going on in their civic sphere. And even if they are concerned, they may not know what to do about it. So if they have broken roads or potholes, they do not know where to go, who to talk to. And elected representatives as well. They may want to help their citizens, but they may not have the technical capacity to do so. So what Shasan does is it bridges this divide. It empowers citizens by giving them actionable information on what to do. It capacitates public representatives on their ability to hold and talk with their citizens and their teams as well. And finally, through a digital platform, we connect the two together so that there is no third party or broker to come into the system. And that is the essence of what Shasan is. And I think that is it.
Yeah. Thank
As the four of
you.
us.
Thank you, Pratik, Tai, Shiropa, and Sagufta. So we'll dive deeper into everything that you said. But yeah, I think I would like to ask a question first to Shiropa. You just shared your amazing journey very briefly. So I will ask you to have the long version. But I think, yeah, I mean, one thing to emphasize is, I would say before COVID, you had many activities. I mean, obviously you had some digital activities, but a lot of offline workshop, a lot of offline consultations. And you told us, and one interesting part of your story is you actually adapted all your offline activities online very quickly, I think just in a matter of days. And that online activities benefited, as you said, 18,000 people from March to December 2020 only. So I think everyone would love to hear, like, if you could walk us through this journey of, okay, you had to adapt everything online, and how did you, how was it to support 18,000 people from Bangladesh?
Thank you, Dinglong. So basically, Monebandhu, I have to say, Monebandhu successfully transformed to serve the tremendous demands of the psychosocial services during this global pandemic. And also started in 2016, we mostly offering our in-person counseling. And that time we have the online counseling as well, but and even the online counseling was not very popular to the people. When people are very reluctant to take the online counseling session because they think, oh, if the in-person counseling is not working, how the online counseling is working to their life. So people are very, I think the mental health issues still a stigma and a barrier to overcome these challenges. So and that time we just and I think that within the 2 days when I'm just coming back from the USA, I went there for another program, and just coming there from US, and I just thinking like, we have to have all our program, all our activities to transform to offline to online. So I just organized a team meeting, and I just speak about all our teammates, and say what I'm thinking like during that time. And I just feedback from our I think with our counselors and teammate. So we just in a and the eve of the pandemic, we started offering the online counseling, and to make it popular and communicative and easier, we launched our 24/7 helpline number. And we put all our first responder to and we just check the schedule to the client for the because of the every time in the 24/7 hour, all the people, not only from the Bangladesh and the other client from the other chain countries who seek our services at that time. So so we basically started offering our online counseling and using different virtual platform and the social media. And to make it communicative and easier, we created many awareness post, content, video, short video, podcast, our radio show. We turn our television show into a social media live program. So everything it just starting, and people take it easily. And to accommodate with this new platform, uh, we trained all our counselors, psychologists, psychiatrists, first responder, volunteer. I think all the first 2 months we just trained, I think 1,000 people for this for to accommodate with this new platform. And I think that was tough time, but somehow we overcome it, because I think everyone, including our counselor, we're going through a lot, and to cope with this pandemic and so on. So we conducted one training sessions, one refresher training session, two supervision sessions every month. And we kept feedback from to hear the comments from our counselor, from our, I think the counselor, even the clients, and also monitored I think the level of the client satisfaction on a regular basis. And not only that, to take care of our counselors, psychologists, and psychiatrists. And because all these people attended thousands of call every day, so we need to check their mental health as well. So we regularly checking their mental health by phone call, by text messages, by cards, of course the virtual cards. So, and any positive and inspiring quotes every day we sent them to all our counselor, first responder. And also we're that time we're offering I think the mental health and well-being and counseling services as well from them. So I think all these things, all these I think I must say it's like quick decisions. And these decisions is really works, so that's why we served so many people at that time. And I must say that Youth Collab program, they offered us first time. So when already we announced our online services, and they offered us, we can do it collaboratively, and they supported, and I think that support pivoted the services as well. That I think we need the boost that time. And after that, when UNDP just offer the partnership, and that really in Bangladesh, we not only we provide service, the online counseling, we also introduced the first ever mental health 40 hours of online courses in Bangladesh, in Bangla. So in Bangladesh, before that, no mental health courses in Bangla. So that really, I think the 1 million people already enrolled this course, and they got the initial certificate, and they are acting as like a first responder. So that's the initial story. And I think we are just right now, we are just accommodating all these platforms, all these issues, the feedbacks. So this is our story. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shilopa. Yeah, just to emphasize again that, I mean, the switch was so quick. It all started with a meeting and with your leadership to get the trust from all your colleagues. And yeah, I mean, just to emphasize it, you switched from having mainly offline activities to having a 24/7 free online consulting services from one extreme to the other, benefiting 18,000 people and having 1 million, you said 1 million person enrolling in your online course. That's amazing. Thank you for sharing. And next, I wanted to also ask a question to Sagufta, who I would say also needed to adapt and pivot very quickly. You mentioned you went from producing upcycled furniture to opening a zero waste shop. And you also did it very quickly. And what struck me from when we talked was, you told me, yeah, I managed to identify this opportunity. And so, yeah, I just want to ask you, like, how did you manage to diversify your activities so quickly? What was your process?
So initially when we started the Fusion Hub, it was just about creating, dealing with the waste that has already been created to turn it into something that we can sell. And then when COVID happened, because we were supplying majorly to the tourism industry, our market got affected. And as you know, Fiji has a population of less than 1 million people. So to get into a market, to get into a niche market, it's very difficult. And we started realizing that because of COVID, a lot of people became very conscious about what they were buying, how they were buying, and where they were buying it from. And most of this resulted in a lot of plastic packaging and usage of a lot of plastic packaged products. So that is when I came across the idea to, why don't create a space where people can come and shop hygienically, but as well as they won't need the plastic packaging. So what we created was, it's essentially a zero waste bulk buying store. It's mobile. We are still in the launch process right now. We are working on creating sort of a space where people can come and buy things in their own containers. So that way we eliminate the usage of plastic from manufacturing itself. So these dried goods, shampoo bars, conditioner bars, even cleaning products. So some of the cleaning products that we have worked on is we are compressing organic waste into small tablet forms, which could be used as cleaning materials. So instead of buying those big bulky sprayed wipes, you can just mix these tablets with water and then use it around your house. So it tackles the organic waste crisis, as well as you don't need the big bottles, which in Fiji do not get recycled. So it all ends up in our landfills. So that is essentially the idea that came about. Now, how we diversified, I think we couldn't have done it without the Youth Labs programs. We couldn't have done it without our other partners, development partners, mainly via her, who believed in our vision and gave us some funding to be able to test our idea, to test the market if people are going to accept these services. So when we tested the market, to our surprise, it exceeded our expectations, and there became so much demand for it that we had to sort of rush it up. And that is how I guess we were able to diversify. I think it's very important when you're trying new things as an entrepreneur to be able to test your market, to see the response and get the feedback before you go into it large, because you don't want to waste your resources because they're limited. So that is essentially how we diversified from just producing furniture from waste to a completely zero waste lifestyle brand. We now also are creating zero waste Airbnb spaces where our guests can come in, they can stay in a space where everything is made from waste and there's no plastic inside. So as soon as you enter, you're not creating any waste or anything of that. So that is another thing that we have diversified in. Ideally, the time is not so right because of the tourism industry, but our local market is also adapting to it as well. So that is how we're able to diversify, because at the end of the day, it's about giving back to our community of women that are working with us, who are creating these products, who are creating these services, so that they have access to income, especially during these challenging times. So yes, so that's basically our story of diversification.
Thank you, Sagufta. Yeah, no, it's amazing to hear that. I mean, you still stuck with your vision, right, of like trying to solve the waste problem in Fiji, and you saw that another problem was exacerbated by the COVID crisis. And I think as Shiropa, you had some good partners you could count on. So great to hear. And no, so great to hear your story. And also, and one good thing, I mean, one for me, one lesson from what you said is, I mean, starting small, testing the market, and also switching from maybe like the tourism international to more local market. Actually, what you're doing can benefit and give back to your local community as well. So having this new lens. So yeah, thank you for sharing. And yeah, next I had a question for Pratik. So what I found interesting is I think that you didn't necessarily need to pivot, but it's more what you were already doing got even more important during these times. And you told me that the pandemic gave you the opportunity to step forward in front of what you were seeing. And I would love to hear the story. Like, how did you realize this? I mean, did you expect it? And how did you take that opportunity to step forward?
Thank you, Dinon. So it's just one of those realizations you have in life that the greatest opportunities come hidden as some of the greatest challenges. And before the pandemic, we knew that there was going to be a move towards digitalization. That was inevitable, and we were also focusing on our live in-person training programs. And when the pandemic hit, it's one of the questions. I think it was from Anna, who asked, what was the most challenging part of launching our solution? It's just the daily struggle. When the pandemic hit, there was a nationwide lockdown in Nepal, and you have bills to pay, you have your own family to take care of. You also have to take care of your employees' families because now they are your family, right? And just managing that, and also having a vision of a civically engaged Nepal that you have to chase. Managing all of that is incredibly hard. But the theme of our thing today, resilience, is what's most important. So when the pandemic hit, we realized the emergence of around three things. The first was there was tremendous lack of accountability and transparency, absolutely none. So the government was selecting private companies, to receive tenders without any due diligence or any tracking process. There were reports of government-run quarantine centers that were in horrible conditions. Mistreatment of minorities, inhumane handling of dead bodies, and even cases of rape in some quarantine centers. And the second thing was that, unlike before, COVID was what was unique about COVID was that it affected everybody, Right? Usually when a civic or a political issue pops up, it usually affects only a subset of the population, right? Maybe it could be based on the geography, or it only affects certain income levels. So in a way, everybody realized in that time span quite viscerally the importance of being engaged civically, the importance of being able to go to your representative and ask him or her, what is this? Like, aren't you responsible for this? Aren't you responsible for taking care of us? And the third thing was, since nobody could go outside or meet physically, this was the perfect time to make a solution that would facilitate a transition to a digital way of citizens engaging with their elected representatives. Right? And that way, we it affirmed our initial belief that we have to transition digitally. And when we applied for the Youth Solutions report, I don't think the pandemic had hit us yet, and we were already working on the digital platform. And after the pandemic, when the report came out, it really helped us. It helped set us apart in a lot of these grant processes and awards and competitions. So it has been really helpful for us.
Thank you, Pratik. No, yeah, again, I think it's, really on your vision. You already envision more digitalized civic engagement. And yeah, you were just ready for it. I think you were all the conditions were there and you jumped on it. And I think it's a perfect transition to my next question to Tai, where you already had your digital platform. The problems that you're addressing also got exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic. So hence my question, I was wondering, like, you had a spike of users, you told us, from 10,000 to almost 30,000 in 2020. I wonder, like, did you expect that? Yes or no? And how did you adapt to the spike of users?
Yeah, thank you for your question. And we did expect an increase, but we didn't expect one this big. We didn't think that we would grow by over 300% within like a year, but we did expect an increase. So just to contextualize, I think I didn't go into enough detail the first time round, so I'll explain a little bit more about Prism. So we're a completely anonymous online communication platform in which we have specialized user registration. So members can sign up as either a speaker or a listener. So a speaker in this case is someone who is seeking support, advice, and guidance. So this might be someone with little experience with their own sexuality or gender identity, and they might be coming to terms with it, maybe living in more homophobic areas or areas with little acceptance. And the other user will be a listener. So this is someone with more experience and someone who can give gentle advice and guidance and they will be someone who will listen to the speaker. And the speakers and listeners will be able to connect in different chat rooms, group chats, and also on discussion forums on their website as well. So did the rise come as a surprise? Yes, it did come as a surprise, but and then we quickly realized that this is a lot of people, and this is very, very real. So we needed to step it up, and we firstly implemented quite a few security measures on the platform because we realized that this is a big number of people, and we wanted to make sure that this is a really, really safe community. So we implemented different things like the alert buttons, which would allow users to report certain conversations that violated their privacy, safety, and well-being, as well as different trainings for listeners to be more respectful. So how to respond if someone comes out to you, what to do if, how to direct people to more professional mental health services, where do we draw the line between peer support and mental health, and things like that. And we also opened up discussion forums. This was also spurred by like the Black Lives Matter movement. And we wanted to bring a lot more intersectional activism onto our platform as well. So people can, spark open dialogue and generate strength and acceptance within our community. And another thing that we kind of adapted with like this Sprout and users is that we try to carve our own revenue channels. So we did this by partnering with local LGBT businesses and like financial partnerships where we advertise their products and we receive like a certain percentage of sales, so we can, you know, invest all of that money back into our marketing to try to get Prism to many users as possible and try to get as much people onto the platform as possible. And our goal is to help everyone. So we're investing all of our money back into that. So we have like technological advances, marketing, and branding advances as well.
Thank you, Tai, for sharing and summarizing your own thoughts. Is great. You're making my job easier. Cool. I mean, before moving to other question, I see a very interesting question in the chat from Joan Manda. What will you do differently if you had to do this all again? And yeah, just throwing it here. I wonder if anyone would like to answer this one. Let's see. Do we have volunteers among the speakers who would like to answer? What would you do differently? But I feel like, I mean, you've all done what needed to be done, but I think it's a interesting question. Oh, go ahead, Pratik.
I mean, you know, obviously I would invest in Bitcoin, but jokes aside, no, one thing I would definitely do is try to start a culture of resilience in the organization itself. I think we did that a bit too late, and because of that, we had to go through a lot of setbacks, which were quite unnecessary. And I think it would save you a lot of heartbreak if you already have, you know, a manifesto or anything that basically describes how you want your organization to go, especially in a difficult time like a pandemic where everybody's uncertain about how things will progress within the company.
Thank you, Pratik. Yeah, would anyone like to answer this question as well?
I can go. So one thing I would have done differently is to engage the community a bit more. So this is not just the LGBT community, but also the wider community, because we realized that our marketing campaigns targeted mainly only LGBT people in the LGBT community. But if you wanted to generate like widespread acceptance, you will need to target the wider community, because we don't want to isolate this activism. We want to make this acceptance widespread. So looking back, we would have made our marketing campaigns such as quarantine and things like that more accessible as well to engage the entire community. And also generate discussions that is not just isolated within the LGBT community, but also for the entire world, basically. So, yeah.
Thank you, Tai. Cool. I see a question from Aviel. I'm not sure if I understand it, so if you could maybe elaborate or rewrite it. But yeah, now moving forward, I wanted to touch upon one aspect that Sagufta you mentioned, because we speak a lot about how you contribute to the waste issue in Fiji. But one very interesting thing is, you know, not only, I mean, beyond the sole survival of the Fusion Hub, you are tackling a much bigger issue, waste, but also you are doing, I mean, you are also in the women empowerment work. I mean, you are working to improve the livelihoods of women living in poverty. And yeah, it would be great if you could maybe elaborate a bit on what is the model of the Fusion Hub now, and how do you integrate all these different parts together?
Sure. So in Fiji, generally, women, especially those residing in the rural communities and the remote villages and islands of Fiji, they don't have access to proper education, or even, and then if you don't have access to education, you don't have access to job opportunities or income generating opportunities. And they are mostly, you know, thought of as people, as agenda that is focused on soft skills. So no one really gives them opportunities other than housework or babysitting services. So that is when I decided that this was a problem. And being the daughter of a single mom, I saw the discrimination she had to face while bringing us all up. And I just wanted to create an environment where women have more opportunities. So initially, when we started, we created this Voice to Worth capacity building program for women living in rural areas. And this is generally, they learn how to make furniture. So they learn how to use power tools. They learn how to assemble things together, the colors and everything. And you could see how empowered they felt when they learned that new skill. And that just sort of gave me that push that I needed to continue my work by involving them. So essentially, when I created Fusion Hub, I wanted it to be I wanted women to become part of the waste problem that we are facing in Fiji. And this is essentially how I integrated that into my business. And the model, so for now, it is a 2 weeks capacity building program where they learn all the skills. We provide them with the tools. As a community, they have this community center where they gather and they make these products and services for us. And then once the products are ready according to our order or according to our customers' requirements, then we are able to sell them. And then once we've sold them, 70% of the revenue goes back to the community. It goes back to them. 30% is of course used for our marketing and all of our other expenses and costs that we generate. So yeah, so that's essentially how our model works.
Thank you, Sagufta. Yeah, no, for me, you are really embodying the 3 pillars of the SDGs, like people, planet, prosperity. So I wanted to touch upon that and for you to elaborate. Maybe to close the second round, I will ask a question to Shilopa. I guess there's so many good questions on the chat, so cherry picking. But maybe on the same spirit as Sagufta, I mean, you are doing much more than just guaranteeing the survival of Monerbondu. You are trying to take action for mental health awareness in Bangladesh. You mentioned 1 million people on your online course. I highlight it again. And yeah, you mentioned briefly that you started, I mean, the online course, but podcasts, radio, TV, I mean, you are doing so much. Could you share with us a bit what is everything you have done and why do you, I mean, how to say, like, why was it important to do it now? Because obviously all the mental health issue got much worse during COVID-19 pandemic. So yeah, would love to hear everything that you have done to contribute to COVID-19 recovery.
Thank you, Dinglong. I think before I start says your answer, I want to answer the questions from the AVL, and I think for the AVL's answer questions, I think I must say Monebondu has a policy like ethical code of conduct policy, child safety policy, gender policy, and nature policy. So all our counselors, all our first responder, they are aware of this policy. They signed the ethical code of conduct. So they have experience. Have experience. They are certified and experienced counselor, first responder. So they maintain and we keep maintain them as well to prevent any kind of misuses and others thing. So I know during this pandemic uh, in Bangladesh, many women, girls, and teenagers they faced cyberbullying in the online platform. So keep all these things in mind. We maintain these. That's why we launch our ethical code of conduct, global ethical code of conduct rules. So we maintain the core values and core ethics to make the mental health services as mental health services popular to and trustworthy to the people. So Monebond has a credibility to for we are working with UNDP. So people think, oh, they like working with the UN's organization. They have the credibility. So so apart from this, I have already mentioned we are kept the feedback from to hear the comments from the client, and we regularly monitor the level of satisfactions from the client side. So that's the thing we are using even right now to manage any kind of issues before arising. So I think I said the answers. If you have any other questions to ask me, please feel free to put your questions in the chat box. And so, Dinglang, apart from this, you know that Moner Bondhu has a already has the online activity and offline activity, and during this COVID time, we saw many issues, and we did survey to the people. So and people, when people asking questions in our social media like Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and that time we really realized people, of course people has many issues, but even during the COVID time, some issues are before COVID, some issues are suppressed in our mind, in our, I think, in our body. And during this COVID time, when we are going through a lot of issues happen, and many uncertainty, anger, anxiety, grief and loss, we're going through grief and loss. So that's all these things really uh, to trigger our mental health issues as well. So that's why we created guided meditation, anxiety relief meditation, yoga, light yoga exercise video in Bangla, because many videos in online in English. So most of the people in Bangladesh, they're not I think they're not communicate in English. So language is a barrier in here. So that's why we just created with our counselor, with our volunteer, with our experts. So that really impacted to the people, and people take it very easily, and they practice it, the guided meditation for their mind, for keep their mind calm, and of course with the body. And apart from this, we from last September, we open our well-being center as well, because of the some people in the marginalized group, like the RMG sector workers. They contribute, even in the female worker, they contributed a lot in our economic growth in Bangladesh. So for their mental health and well-being, we organize 21 sessions in 21 ready-made garments factory, not only in Dhaka, this is outside of the Dhaka. So we organize in-person session to even make sure the safety for the COVID, and everyone put extra mask, hand gloves. And so we did the sessions, and that was really amazing experience. And after that, we established the country's first mental health and recreation center for RMG sector workers in a factory, with the support of the SNV Netherlands Development Organization. And we introduced a not only a yoga center, a meditation center, also we introduced a beauty parlor in the corner of the recreation center. People, because when people feel low, if they just grooming themselves or take care of their skin or self-care, like that really boosted their good health in their mind. So all these things were we did, and we're still doing right now. And also we organized 30 workshops from just December to March, and in a different with different organizations like schools, universities, using that online platform. And some events we did in-person platform. And to make sure the safety and the precautions. And so some people are they are coming in our recreation center based in Dhaka, and they take the session. Sometimes people are very, I think they feel exhausted because most of the offices are open here, so they feel exhausted to take sessions from through that online platform. So they wanted to meet in person with our counselors. So also we're accommodating both the online and in person at the same time. So that's the thing we're doing right now. And and of course I have to mention that we did, I think we created 3 animation that bring I think that reach I think more than 30 million, I think 3 million people. So and so this video, this animations is very easy going, easy communicative. So so that video, I think most of the people, I think using Bangladesh, I think use us 4 core people, they using Facebook. So all this platform, they saw our animation video and they can relate with their life. And that's the amazing thing, I think, when see the people are saying, oh, Moner Bondhu changed my life. And during the COVID time, they Moner Bondhu just keep me alive. And I think that's the most amazing thing I have heard during the pandemic. And I'm really, really grateful for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Shiropa. I'm sure, yeah, you could even speak more about all the other activities that you don't have even time to share. But no, I think I love the care that you are giving to your own team and all the volunteers, like preserving their own mental health while they're trying to support the mental health of other people. And also your focus on leaving no one behind, concept very close to UNDP, but how to also benefit and support non-mainstream populations, more vulnerable populations. And I love your last comment, people saying, yeah, I mean, Shiropa really changed my life, or a good companion during the pandemic. And I'll have a last question for Tai and for Pratik, but for Tai first. I think that's a comment that also I'm sure you could hear from your community. I mean, since you're such a safe space for the LGBTIQ community to share, would love, yeah, if you could share some impact, like some of your impacts during the pandemic, you know, from all the activities that you have implemented. You were speaking about how to normalize as well the LGBTIQ community among, I mean, the broader population. Would love to hear that.
Yeah, so over quarantine, we got a lot of users from this campaign called Quarantine. So we actually had a lot of users reach out to us and saying that they learned so much from the users on Prism, and they learned so much from the discussions on Prism. And they were saying things like, I never knew I never knew being transgender was an option. So through Prism, one person actually found out that they were transgender through talking to people on Prism and discussing on our different discussion threads. And that was just so meaningful to me because it felt so real to be able to hear them give direct feedback to Prism that way. And it's just so meaningful to be able to help people truly discover their own genders and sexualities. And another thing people have been saying is that they were saying that they come from quite a homophobic country, and they're having a really hard time being isolated under lockdown in their own families. So it's been really hard for them to be in their homes for prolonged periods of time. They often face verbal abuse and things like that for their gender and sexual identity. So as an online platform, they said that this has been like my lifeline. This has been so useful for me during quarantine. And that was just so meaningful to us. And many stories of people coming out for the first time on Prism as well. So that's just shown us how important our work is. And that just makes it very, very meaningful for us to keep going.
Thank you, Tai, for sharing the great stories. Yeah, I mean, and my last question before wrapping up will be for Pratik. I think I mean, similar question. I would love to hear, you mentioned that you wanted to, I mean, you've seen all these new problems that arise from the pandemic. Would love to hear some of your impact stories. I've seen already a lot from the Youth Solution Report, but would love to hear from you if you could share. I think you're muted, Pratik.
I'm audible now. So, when the pandemic hit, we really wanted to narrow down our focus. So we decided we would, work digitally with citizens and try to formulate a way in which we could help elected representatives do their jobs better. So the first thing we did was we realized that civic education was a prerequisite for civic engagement, and towards that end, we started educating young people on leadership, on how to organize a movement around issues, because there were so many issues during COVID that affected specific communities only, and if we could take youth from that community who were, demographically speaking, less likely to have adverse effects on COVID, we would be able to start small pockets of change. And that was the initial idea. And over the course of about 8 months, we trained 500 youth from around the country, provide them the scholarships to attend the course as well if they could not afford it. And even the fee itself was very minimal. But to be able to really integrate and appreciate the training, we had to put that. And later we decided to remove that entirely because we tried to make our training for free. And we realized that our mission to promote civic engagement really fails without the inclusion and civic empowerment of youth. So that was one thing that we did. The second thing was when I spoke to the Member of Parliament representing my own constituency, he was quite flabbergasted by the amount of work that was in front of him, just the sheer number of requests he was getting. And he was getting frustrated with the inability of himself and his team to respond adequately to the various demands of his constituents. So we trained his team and his secretariat on organizing and leadership as well, and how to better talk with constituents, how to form a system where it's much easier and it's much more accessible and inclusive for every member of society in his constituency. And over the course of about 3 months, we helped with the distribution and monitoring and evaluation of over 500,000 masks to about 30,000 households during the early response to COVID. And when I look back and think about another thing I could have done differently, I think we should have expanded much faster than we did, because right now we are growing the digital platform, and we've been lucky enough to raise around $100,000 for scaling up the digital platform. And I think if we had anticipated that much earlier, we might have even saved far more many lives across the country. Yeah, but hindsight is 2020.
Thank you, Pratik. Now, I love your comment about you can do civic participation workshops, make it easier for people but the first step is really civic empowerment, as you said. How do you
Education.
reconnect citizens? Yeah, education. And yeah, how do you make them understand why it's important? How do you make them reconnect with their own power of action? Like, how can they realize that they can have an impact as well? And yeah, no, I mean, thank you so much, everyone, for sharing today how you adapted to the COVID-19 challenges, how you contributed to the COVID response, and more globally, how you're contributing to the recovery, and also continue addressing much bigger issues as well, waste, civic participation, inclusion of LGBTIQ communities, and mental health. I have just like for the last 2 minutes, we have just a last question on Mentimeter, just to get to hear from everyone, like what is one thing that marked you today? What is one thing that you learned today? What is one thing that inspired you today? What is one key learning from this session? So it's the same Mentimeter, so you can just go back where it was open. You can share on the chat as well. It's nice for the speakers to hear what you are learning as you are living the panel discussion. Also, I see so many people who want to be connected with you all, collaborate. So you can find all of them on LinkedIn very easily. Just the same name on LinkedIn, or maybe they can share their email addresses. But yeah, you can find them very easily. They're super connected. They all digitalize their operations and their personal branding. But yeah, no, feel free to share on Mentimeter. One key takeaway from this session. So we have how much people can affect people positively through those small actions. Move fast, but don't break things. Interesting. We have a lot of congratulation messages on the Zoom chat. It's motivating. Yeah, let's spend a few last minutes to share a bit our thoughts. The incredible impact young people can have. All three, even 4, 5, 6 speakers of today. Cool. I leave it open for a few minutes. Sorry for all the questions. We had so many questions. It came in more and more. But yeah, I mean, feel free to contact them, ask them directly your questions. And yeah, feel free to keep your comments coming on the chat on Mentimeter, and we'll end in a few minutes. Okay, cool. I guess if there is no more comments, just thank you all. Thank you, Sagufta, Tai, Shiropa, and Pratik, and of course, Alejina, Eli, SDSN News, Collab, and all our attendees today. And yeah, have a nice day. Thank you so much. And there's one last comment. I'll end on that. Keep motivated and move forward to find out the challenges and opportunities. Cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Din Long, for being a good moderator.
Thank you, Pratik.
Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day.
You. Have a nice day.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you for sharing your experiences.
Yeah. Oh, Aviel, I'm not sure how I pronounce your name. I see you have one more question, so I can quickly answer that now, if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, wait, I think I saw a question just now. Okay, it's about stigma. So being LGBTQ and also, providing a mental health service. Yeah, I feel like that's like a double-edged sword because, both things are stigmatized. in Thailand. So we do have some acceptance of the LGBT community, but it isn't like true and complete acceptance. So many families are still very traditional and they're not very accepting. And mental health support is also quite stigmatized in Thailand. So if you go see to therapy, people will think you have like a mental disorder and that you need to be put in like rehab of some sort, which isn't true at all. So there are like very many misconceptions of that in Thailand. So it was quite hard to, to gain traction in the beginning because I contacted my school to implement Prism, and they said no. They were like, this is not okay. What will the parents think of the school like backing an LGBT service? And I was very taken aback because it took me a lot of effort to actually go to like the admins at school in the first place because this is quite a personal issue. But so I don't really have much advice, but one thing is to be very persistent and to continue to seek for help. So I contacted one admin, they said no. I went to another admin. I just went to the next door and knocked on it, and they were like, "Hey, I want to really implement this. Is there a way I can conduct a trial run at school? Maybe even design my own LGBT curriculum that will be coupled with Prism." So it's just like negotiating and really pushing for it, and in the end it got approved. So yes, that's just my advice for dealing with something stigmatized. So my advice is to just it's okay if you're the first, but just keep on persisting and negotiating and seeking help from many people.
Well, thank you, Tai. So yeah, so well, thanks again, and yeah, we'll close the session now. Connect with each other on LinkedIn, and take the COVID-19 survey of this collab. Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.